Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Sander and Jes Valentine.
Hey, Kate, you know what's so awesome?
What?
That we're sponsored by Brainwashed Coffee. And Brainwashed Coffee is amazing because not only does it taste good, but they give 50% of proceeds back to addiction recovery.
Not only that, they give back to our Seltzer Squad because if you use our discount code Seltzer Squad at checkout, you receive 20% off of your order.
Holy shit, that's amazing. And that's on top of how they already give you free shipping if you get 3 bags of coffee.
So visit brainwashedcoffeeco.com, use the code Seltzer Squad at checkout, get 20% off, get yourself some free shipping, and get yourself some coffee as a sober treat. Jess, what do people do if they want more Seltzer Squad?
Oh, well, it's pretty easy. All they have to do is become a Patreon.
Patreon? A patron? A Patronus?
A patron on our Patreon.
If you want to be a Princess FOMO, you'll get early access to our episodes every Wednesday instead of Friday. If you want to subscribe to our middle tier, Former Hot Mess, you will receive the bonus monthly audio episode and early access to episodes. And if you indeed are the slickest bitch around, you will get early access, monthly bonus episodes, and you will be able to see all of our episodes now in video format.
This is truly a labor of love, and we want to keep it going. So help support us at patreon.com/Seltzer Squad.
Hey, Kate.
Hi, Jess. Hey,
Hey,
Angela.
Hi, girls.
How are you?
So good. Thank you so much for having me on. I had such a great time with you guys when you came on my podcast, and my listeners I know are
That was like
super
all
excited
time
about
for
it.
us. We had such a good time.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I felt so bad because my stupid mic broke. So we were going to do this back to back. And then I'm like, oh, guys, I'm stressed
Look at her.
out.
Look at us in our headsets now.
I'm like a pilot.
All of us and our equipment.
I know, right? It's so funny. When I very first bought my podcast equipment, right? When I was just like trying to get the guts to do it, I bought my equipment and I didn't have microphone stands. So we had to hold our microphones. And you think it sounds so silly, right? But it makes such a freaking difference. Like,
Yeah.
because I think what a lot of people in the regular world don't understand either is how sensitive the equipment is. And if you move the microphone in your hand the tiniest bit, like it wrecks your audio and it makes people super nervous. Like holding a microphone says like, that's it. I've got to get
It's like the Celine Dion show. You're walking around your living room.
It's nerve-wracking. Yes, microphone stands make all the difference.
Well, welcome, Squad. We have Angela from the Addiction Unlimited podcast. She is a coach. She is a speaker. She leads a community. She does a million things, and she's
Does all of it.
a rock star, amazing goals of a sober person. And so we were on her podcast. We had some audio, visual, technical difficulties, and now we are so pleased to have the opportunity to get you on our podcast to discuss, because I feel like we could have kept talking in that interview for hours.
I know.
So this is a great opportunity to like continue that convo. Did I miss anything in your intro? We're not great over here at the Seltzer Squad with intros.
No, I mean, no, you didn't miss anything. It's hard. I can't even keep track of all the stuff I do. So don't worry about that.
Yeah. Prior to this, guys, we were just talking about Clubhouse, which feels like a whole other animal. But Angela, take us back to the beginning and tell us about your struggles with addiction, because I know you've been in recovery for a long time. And so I want to talk about, like, in our squad, we call it like early sobriety, toddler sobriety, baby sobriety. I feel like you're in, I don't want to say elder because that's like has a weird connotation, but you're like, you are in like adult sobriety. So we want to know about the before, during, and now of kind of your journey.
Tell
of
us
how,
your secrets.
Yeah, tell us your secrets. Tell us the story, because
I was a hot mess. Okay. I was hot mess express. And honestly, I was a hot mess, but I really thought I had it all together. And I thought I was so cool. Like I knew on some level, I knew that I didn't drink correctly.
Okay.
You know? And I recognized that pretty young, but for all intents and purposes, I was kind of a late bloomer. You know, I didn't drink in high school, which is a lot of people's story. Like I never drank in high school. A lot of my friends drank beers. Like there were always kegs or whatever at the parties. I just wasn't interested. I don't know why. I didn't think about it. My friends would be walking around drinking beers. Like it didn't even cross my mind to have one. I don't know. So I really started drinking. Well, I went through a breakup at 19, like my first love, my first true love situation, right? And I started to go off the deep end a little bit with that. And that's when I started really drinking a little bit. But then I started working in a bar when I was 20. And from that point, it was balls to the wall crazy, right? Because then my whole environment, everybody I saw every day drank every day. So that became very normal to me. And it took me a long time to get out of control because I didn't have any tolerance, you know? So I was really just starting drinking 2021. It took me a long time to build any kind of tolerance. But what I knew is I drank pretty much every day from the beginning. And even though I wasn't getting crazy, I wasn't blacking out, I wasn't having consequences, somewhere inside of me, my intuition said there's nothing normal about drinking every day. You know, so I had my first conscious thought of, I wonder if I'm an alcoholic when I was 24.
Oh, wow.
I lived in Hollywood. I was a bartender, right? So I was bartending all over Hollywood, Beverly Hills, you know, the typical like nightclub hot spots kind of thing. I thought I was so cool and everybody just drank all the time. And my job was to drink. So also in Los Angeles, there are a lot of sober people. So
Okay.
I always worked with other bartenders or cocktail servers who were in AA, who were
Okay.
sober, right? I think it's about a 50-50 split in
Oh, wow.
LA. You're either strung out or you're in recovery.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, not really 50-50, but there's a
Right.
lot of sober people out there. It's a really fun place to be sober. And anyway, I would just had this exposure to sober people. And I was talking to a guy that used to come in my bar and he was sober. And I don't even remember what he had said to me, but conversations with him were the first time I thought, I wonder if I have a problem. And I remember asking him, like, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And I think he kind of laughed, right? Because where I was like 24, I was still like a night out of drinking might've been 4 or 5 drinks for me in a whole night. You know, like I was definitely not how I ended up for sure. But I think he kind of chuckled and he was like, no, Angela, I don't think you're an alcoholic. And I was like, okay. But it always lingered in the back of my mind. And, you know, now when I look back on it, I can see the progression of my drinking so perfectly, where like in my early 20s, we would go out and do things and I might have some drinks, to then like my mid to late 20s, I was going out to drink. Not to go out and do activities, but to drink.
And like worry about the amount of alcohol that would be where you were going.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then to the very end of my 20s into my 30s, where I did not do anything that didn't have alcohol involved. Right. Like I just wouldn't mess with anything, or I was sneaking my own. You know, if we did something where drinking wasn't involved, I would just sneak my own, which is its own kind of sickness. But
Also, like you were saying, you know, you asked your friend if he thought you were an alcoholic, because I feel, you know, back in the day, it was black or white, right? Like you were an alcoholic or you weren't. There was no like, I abuse alcohol or I partake too much or I have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. So of course, you're like a cute 24-year-old and you just have a couple of drinks like every night, whatever. That's what 24-year-old girls do.
Right.
So I feel like I had very similar situations where I'm like, well, I don't think I'm an alcoholic, but it lingered in my brain because I'm like, I still knew I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol.
right.
So
I knew I used it wrong, right? Because I had so many other friends that would drink, but they weren't attached to it. Like they didn't care if they did it or overdid it or if it was going to be at the party. Like that wasn't their focus. Where for me, that was always my focus. my energy was always around the alcohol and bringing the alcohol or supplying the alcohol or having it at my house for after hours. Or for a long time, I bartended in after hours. So I would go to work and I would bartend like the regular shift. I would leave my bar at 2 a.m. and I would go to an after hours and bartend from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like crazy. But I would make more from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Oh, I believe it. Oh, I believe it.
But it was out of control, right? It was just it was after hours. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, to me, I thought it was so fun. I never did drugs. So I was kind of a fish out of water at after hours because after hours tends to be way more about drugs
Yeah.
than alcohol.
Yeah.
But to me, it was such an exciting opportunity to keep drinking, you know? And I
Yeah.
knew
And make
that
money at the same time. And they kind of
and
go
make
hand in
money.
hand.
No rules at after hours.
Right. And I knew, like, I recognized I had friends that weren't that way. They just did not have the same attachment to it that I had. And honestly, I did a whole episode about the difference between high functioning and high bottom, because I feel like people get these very confused because I was very high functioning. I never missed work, you know, like I wasn't losing jobs or losing my house. I didn't have a DUI until the very end of my drinking. And people use these as criteria to figure out if they have a problem or not.
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
Yeah.
dude, I didn't have any consequences until the last year of my drinking.
Yep.
That's when I had consequences. I drove drunk almost every day of my life and did not have a DUI for 13 years. So
believe
that is not a grading tool.
No.
That's not how you decide if you're an alcoholic.
That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like I never had the foresight to think that, like, I knew other people didn't have as much drama while drinking as I did, or as much as I like perceived I had, but I was always afraid of the alcohol running out or the party ending. And so I feel like that's why I was like mass consuming all the time, because I didn't want the fun to stop and I didn't want to run out of booze. So if we were at a house party, I was worried about how much alcohol was there, but I don't think it was even on my, like, I was not even aware enough to realize that, like, oh, my friend Sarah or whatever, like, isn't counting how many bottles of wine we brought when I am. And so I think that's, to your point, like what you similar to what you were saying. But in our bar, I feel like, Jess, we always just joked that we were all alcoholics. And I don't know if that was just like to take the pain off of the problem, right? Like we were like, oh, we're all alcoholics anyway. And that was just sort of like the blanket statement that was made.
We did the same thing. I used to wear a beanie that says alcoholics. It was like a brand out of San Diego. And I thought I was so cool, you know, but I didn't know everything it meant to be alcoholic. I knew I drank more than almost everyone. But again, I couldn't identify a lot of the emotional things. And certainly when I was in the middle of it, I couldn't see that I was sacrificing an entire decade of my life with not growing up and not becoming an adult and not being responsible and not accomplishing anything. Like when you're in the middle of it, you don't see that stuff. But I had a really specific moment where I recognized the difference in my friends. And it was one night leaving a bar and a bunch of my buddies were like, okay, see you later. Call me tomorrow. And I remember thinking, like, why are they going home when we could drink more? And that was the first time that I recognized, like, oh, wow.
Some people choose to go home.
Yeah. What's that life?
I just realized in that moment that it was just more important to me than it was to other people. And it was a huge, huge moment.
That is a huge moment. I feel like a lot of our squad can relate to that, is like, oh, I didn't realize like other people didn't think about this. I always say to people, when you start doing the mental math is like when you're kind of, I wasn't really aware that that was a problem, but I was like doing, at a certain point in my drinking, I would go to the bathroom and I would have this mental math moment of like, okay, I'm buzzed. One more is enough. 2 more is blacked out. And then I remember like literally looking at myself in my eyes in the mirror and being like, fuck it. And then like leaving, and then just we don't know what happens next. But it would be that math game of like, I'm a lightweight and 3 drinks gets me pretty buzzed and drunk, and then, you know, on down the hill from there. And I was never able to stop. I was never able to be like, good night.
I was always like rushing to pee to get back to my drink, which is so crazy and so stupid. But I was like, hurry up. But it's like, why? It's not going anywhere, Jess. Like, what are you missing out on? Like, literally nothing. But that's just the way your brain thinks. I don't know. So, when did you kind of think maybe I should not drink? Like, how did that even come about?
Well, really, I think I had been thinking about it for a while, So again, in my early mid 20s, when I was in LA, there was a program that was coming out called Moderation Management.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing I thought. And I don't remember how old I was. I was probably 25 or 26, somewhere in there. And that was the first thing I was like, well, maybe I need to do this moderation management. Because of course, like everybody else, I hadn't come to terms with, like, there's none forever, like you
Sure.
can't drink anymore. So I thought I'm going to go do this moderation management. And this is so funny to say, but I looked it up online, which, by the way, computers were brand new then and the internet was brand new. And I
Kudos
looked
to
it up.
moderation management for being online.
Right?
Yeah, right. With the 5 other people that were online. But, but I looked it up and it was like the first thing you're supposed to do is not drink for 30 days. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm out. I can't do that. But they had meetings and stuff. So that was the first thing I thought of. And then honestly, I don't think I even considered it until probably around 31. And I got sober. I was 33 and a half when I got sober. And from 30 to 33 was really the ugliest, darkest part of my drinking. And again, I was very high functioning. I was not a sloppy drunk. I was not an angry drunk. I wasn't a crying drunk. I was a very controlled person. I drank a lot, but I put a lot of effort and practice into perfecting my craft. So I was very good at it. But I was definitely starting to recognize the psychological parts of it, right? Where I was getting really depressed and I hated myself and I hated my life. And by then I had had this series of like years of horrible relationships because I was picking horrible people to have relationships with. And all of the mental pieces of that were really starting to take a hold of me, and just so much self-loathing and I just hated myself. I literally, every day that I woke up and realized I was still alive, like I was pissed. And I felt like I felt like it was torture because I was like, fuck, how I have to do this again? Like I have to figure out another day. And I always thought I would just go to sleep one night and never wake up again. That was really what I thought because I drank so much. I'm tiny. I'm a miniature person. I'm 5'2". I weighed 97 pounds when I got sober. I weigh like 130 pounds now as a healthy human. And I was 97 pounds because I didn't eat food anymore. And I mean, I probably ate food a few times a week, like I just didn't eat. And it wasn't like an eating disorder kind of thing. It's just that I was sick. I would get up in the day and I would be so
Hungover.
physically hungover. Like I couldn't drink water. I smoked back then. I couldn't smoke. Like I couldn't do anything for at least a few hours, just letting my body chill. And then I would be getting ready to go back to work and I would start drinking again, So I didn't consciously not eat. I just didn't think about eating because I thought about drinking.
And you get full. I mean, it's not like liquids don't fill you
That's
up,
true,
especially depending on if
Right.
you're having beer or something. It's
Yeah,
really
and I
easy to
was
forget to eat.
totally. And I was predominantly a beer drinker the majority of my drinking life because I was a bartender and beer was kind of the easiest thing to hide because you could put it in any cup with a lid or something and nobody knew what you had. Where, mixed drinks, you could kind of do that too, but it would smell more and sometimes be a weird color. And shots were, well, we were doing that too, but
Yeah, and you'd be fucked up.
always. Yeah, always. But I was a bartender. I mean, that was the point, that was the point.
That was like an edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody wants to buy you drinks. And when you are a bartender in a very competitive environment, for sure, like nightclubs, like you're only getting good shifts if you have super high sales. So when people want to buy you shots and buy you drinks, you're like,
You say
heck
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And you're drinking top shelf, that's job security in my world.
So what did stopping look like? Like what was step one? Or day one, or maybe day one again, or something like that,
Honestly, I think, I did the typical thing where I took a couple of breaks. So by my 30s, I was really thinking like, this is ugly. it was dark. I was suicidal. I hated myself. And I knew like I could trace every problem I had back to alcohol. You know, I knew that my whole demise as a human being was because of alcohol.
Mhm.
But I really didn't know how to start stopping. Like I couldn't figure out like how you even do that. Like I get don't take the next drink, but what do you do with the other 23 hours and 59
Yep.
of the day, you
Yeah.
know?
Crawling by.
So, right, crawling by, exactly. So,
Also, you're in a working environment where that's
right.
everywhere. So that was kind of my next question is, are you working at this time in the same industry or are you giving yourself some time off? Because like same with me, when I first got sober, I was still showing up to the bar every night and just
Yeah,
like white
no,
knuckling it.
I continued bartending for many, many years into
Mhm.
my sobriety. I didn't take any time off, but I took a break. Like I did a 30-day break.
Mhm.
And this is another interesting thing because everybody does this, right? Oh, I'm giving up alcohol for Lent. I'm taking 30 days. Oh, I'm doing alcohol-free April or
Mhm.
dry July, sober October. Like everybody, it's like going to
Every other
jail.
month is dry.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You can walk down 30 days just out of my stubbornness. I could
Mhm.
walk down 30 days sober just to be able to tell everybody I could do it. I could get
Mhm.
through that. The thing with putting those time frames on it is you also give yourself an end date. And that's a psychological thing too. When I'm saying I'm quitting for 30 days and really I know I need to stop forever, but I'm just going to start with 30 days, but you give yourself an end date, right? So of
Yeah.
course I started drinking again. And then I don't know, maybe a year or 2 years later, I took 60 days off. And when I did the 60 days, I knew absolutely for sure that I needed to stop forever. At that point, I knew I needed to give it up forever. And I did 60 days. I felt okay. I didn't do anything. I think I went to one AA meeting, which, you know, is weird for everybody, but I did it. And then I started drinking again. And of course, it was worse than ever. You know, whenever you take a break and go back, you do it worse than you ever did before.
Mhm.
And that's why, kids, they say this illness is progressive. It continues to get worse, even if you are not participating.
I know.
So,
It's so
yeah,
fucked up about it too.
it
It's
is
so annoying.
so, I know, it's so annoying. So I started drinking again, and then I got my first DUI. And
Oh.
once I was in the system, it became much more challenging because
Mm.
I could jump through all the hoops and go to the classes and do all of that stuff, right? I could do all of that pretty easily. But the one thing they really want you to do is not drink, which of course I could not do. So I violated my
Oh no.
probation twice, showing up drunk, right? Because not like I was
Showing up to your
doing,
probation officer?
oh, yeah.
Oh
Oh, yeah.
no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm a professional. So,
Yeah.
so, but not like I'm doing, you know, shots of tequila in
No,
the
yeah,
car
yeah, yeah.
on the way there.
You're showing up
But
reasonably drunk. Yeah.
I was a bartender, so
Mhm.
I'm drinking all night. And by
Yeah.
Oh,
the
right.
time I would get to see my probation officer, I still had alcohol in my system. And one time I did say to her, the first time I think, I did say to her, because of course she smelled it on me, she breathalyzed me, and I was like a 0.1, and which whatever. For and this what I said to her, which she did not appreciate my logic at all. I was
No.
like, well, let's be honest. I drink every day of my life. I haven't been below a 0.1 in
Mhm.
10 years,
Mhm.
honestly. Like I couldn't get out of bed if I was below a 0.1. You know, I'm hardly drunk.
Right.
Like, give me field sobriety test.
Sure.
Like, do whatever you do. I'm not drunk.
Mhm.
Again, she did not appreciate my logic. So, so I did that one more time a few months later, and then I crashed my car.
Oh
And
no.
I crashed my car at 70 miles an hour on the freeway and I hit another car.
Oh no.
And it was this moment like I thought I killed the guy I hit. I thought I killed him. Because in my drunken brain, for sure, like I couldn't fathom how he wouldn't be severely injured. Like I just hit him on the freeway.
Sure.
Now, again, keeping this rational somewhat, remember, I was highly intoxicated, and my recollection of things was, you know, like I don't even remember my accident. I'm pretty sure I was passed out when I crashed. Like I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Mhm.
I remember tiny bits and pieces. And honestly, the majority of what I know is from my trial that came much later.
Mhm.
Um, but I did. I thought that I had killed that guy. And I remember standing on the side of the freeway, right? Like it just all this wreckage and all the lights. And, I was dressed for a night out. So I'm in my cute
Oh,
little
no.
skirt and
Yeah.
heels and my whole face is busted up, And I remember just thinking like, oh my gosh, like I have to call my mom right now and tell her I'm a murderer. Like I just killed somebody. Like how do you tell your mom that,
Mhm.
And I have a really really fabulous, incredible, loving, kind mom.
Mhm.
Like how do you tell her that? And at some point they told me that guy wasn't hurt. I was okay, but he was okay, but it was such a weird thing because I still felt the weight of like I had killed him. Like
Mhm. What could have
psychologically.
happened? Sure.
Yes, because those were my actions,
Mhm.
just because the end result was different. And oh, it's so crazy. Everybody on the planet hates the drunk driver.
Mhm.
Like you hear these stories your whole life about the drunk driver killing the people and killing the families.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, and how cool I thought I was for so long, I was having this moment of, oh shit,
That is
I am
not
public.
cool.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
public enemy number one. And the other part of it too was I didn't give a shit if I hurt myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? I did not care about me. I prayed to die every day of my life just to end the misery of it all. But it never crossed my mind for a moment that I could hurt somebody else. And once I was in that position, I was like, whew, I'm out. I'm done. Like, I can't do this. This is not an option in my life anymore. And that was it. I've never had a drink.
Wow. I had a somewhat similar situation where I was driving blackout wasted, going not the wrong way, but like on the highway, the wrong direction. Like I was heading north whatever. And I hit a pothole while speeding and not basically totaled my car, but whatever. And the cops came. Same thing. I was like all dressed up. I had to call my mom. It was like 5 a.m., 4 a.m. And I literally peed on the road with the cops right there. Like I was such a mess. And thank God I didn't hit anybody
Mhm.
because the same thing, obviously in that moment, I wasn't aware. Like I told the cops, I was like, yes, I'm
I'm
drunk.
fine.
Like
Oh, yeah.
they didn't give me a DUI because I wasn't in the car when my mom was like shocked. She's like, are you going to take
Oh,
her
by the
away? They're
time
like,
they got there.
by the time they got there, because I just wasn't in the car, and they're like, well, she wasn't behind the wheel when we got here. So thank that lady for not putting that on my record, but also like I would have deserved that lesson, that consequence. But although I didn't stop drinking then, it took like about another month for me to like come to Jesus moment. But I had a very similar thing where it's like, if I would have hit somebody or hurt them, that would have been manslaughter. Like I would be in prison for the rest of my life. And like you said, like I hate drunk drivers. And then here I am
You're
being
right
that
about
drunk
public
driver.
enemy number one for sure. But
For
how
Yeah.
many of
sure.
us have
Yeah.
been that? And how, like, kind of, I don't want to say okay, because I think on the sober side of things, we're very much not okay. But, like, in real life, it's like, oh, so and so can only have a few beers because he has to drive home. And that could very easily turn into a very serious. And I mean, a lot of our squad writes in and they're like, how do you handle the shame of the things that you did while you were drinking? So I feel like you would be
Yeah.
an amazing candidate to ask that question of, because,
Yeah.
how did you move through that and like forgive yourself and
That
live with it?
that is the most popular question in my community too. Like
Mhm.
everybody is like, how do you get over the guilt and shame of the things that you did? And for me, I'm probably not the best person to ask this because I am a super logical person. I am not an emotion-based person. So for me, it's very easy to put my drunken drama with my drunk person.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
as long as I'm not drunk, I'm not that person, right? I'm
Yeah.
not making those decisions and rationalizing the things the way I did. I'm not lying to people and manipulating everybody and using everybody. Like, I'm just not that person as long as I don't have alcohol in my body.
Mhm.
So I can really leave that stuff with the drunk version of me. And then for me, it becomes my responsibility. My sole responsibility in my life is to make sure I do not have alcohol in my body so I never have to be that person again.
Mhm.
And then I'm good. I mean, the truth is, I do not have a time machine. I cannot go back and change any of that stuff. Nor would I, by the way. I wouldn't change any of it. Honestly, being an alcoholic is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It led me to my true life path and my passion, and it put me where I'm supposed to be doing what I was created to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have never found that had I not been a drunk, right? Doing all that crazy stuff. But I can't go back and change it. But what I can do is make sure I do everything in my power to kick ass, be sober, and never do that shit again.
Mm-hmm.
Period. That's how you deal with it, is you don't do it over and over and over again. Like from the day I got sober, you could not have paid me $1 million to take a drink, because it became my enemy. Alcohol tried to kill me and make it look like an accident. Like, I really like you guys too, but if you tried to kill me, I wouldn't hang out with you anymore either.
Right.
Right. Again, that's just logical to me. Like, it
Mhm.
really tried to destroy my life. So I left my guilt and shame with the drunk version of me, and I just did everything in my power to make sure I'm not that version of me anymore.
Jess, what's our number one piece of advice when people are getting sober?
Therapy.
Therapy. So much therapy that I'm going to school to be a giver of therapy.
This is true.
BetterHelp reached out to partner with us at the Social Squad to offer 10% off a monthly membership to BetterHelp.com.
What is BetterHelp.com?
BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that is for individuals, for couples. You take a short quiz, you get matched up with a mental health professional, and you, through the app, are able to video, or you can just message back and forth with a licensed professional to give you counseling and guidance on anything and everything that you're going through.
So how do our listeners use our code?
You just go to betterhelp.com/Seltzer Squad and you'll receive 10% off your first month. Jess, are you listening to any good books?
Right now, I'm actually listening to an Audible exclusive podcast.
Ooh. I'm listening to Blackout by Sarah Hepola.
Oh, I listened to that one back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Audible. I love listening to Quit Lit or really any book. But did you know, Squad, that you can use our discount code to get a free month of Audible? Meaning you get a free book if you sign up?
That's right. Just go to audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad and get a free month on us. I actually just signed up myself using it.
It's fucking heavy. That's major.
Right? No,
I
we're all
agree with
quiet
you.
now.
Like, I don't think I'm quite as black and white logical, but I think that as time allows you to separate yourself from that person a little bit, like the wounds feel less shamey. And
For sure.
like as you have small sober wins, though, that starts to kind of like bring up your confidence again. Like, I mean, barring actually having manslaughter happen, which happens all the time, happens probably, every single week. And yeah, there's a certain amount of forgiveness that you have to give yourself, and you can't go back and change anything. You can only move forward.
Right. But I wouldn't have been able to forgive myself if I continued being that person.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the trap, is when people relapse over and over and over again. Of course, you can't get into any kind of forgiveness for yourself or give yourself any kind of grace because you're doing the same things over and over again.
Mhm.
So that's the trap of it. And at the same time, you can't start to rebuild your own self-confidence and rebuild your damaged relationships. You can't show people that you are a new person if you continue falling back into being the old person. I can't tell you I'm new and then all my behavior is old.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like, so really all of my energy had to go into my future, not my past. My past was not doing me any favors, right? I just want to make sure I don't become that person again.
Mhm. Damn. So what do you say to the person that is stuck in the trap? I think a lot of people get stuck in the trap and then they feel so defeated. And it's
yeah.
like, I know it's the one step at a time, la 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 la, but I feel like at some point everybody feels so beat down that all we can say is, I just say keep trying. Like, I'm not a licensed therapist yet. So I'm like, you have to just try something different every single time until you find the thing that works today too, and find, and
You
I'm
will
sure you
not
have much more.
You will not have anything new to say once you are a licensed therapist. That is still the key. That is still the key to everything sobriety is you just can't stop trying. That's the truth. And, here is one of the traps, I believe, in all of this talk of high bottom and gray area and moderation. A lot of that stuff is extremely dangerous because there isn't a lot of wiggle room. When you are trying to regain control of something, it's because you've already lost control. And lucky for me, I had consequences that were so drastic that my motivation was super high. I was not going to drink no matter what because I don't want to kill anybody,
including yourself. Yeah.
Well, I didn't care about that.
Right.
But I didn't want to hurt anybody else. I didn't want to have to tell my mom I hurt somebody else. So people get stuck in this cesspool because really they're just dipping their toe in the sober water. They just want to dip their toe in. They don't want to commit. They don't want to create a plan. But let me tell you, if you think about all of the most major things in life, everything that you will go through that is kick-ass and so worth it, where you get the greatest rewards, you don't half-ass it. It takes planning. It takes sacrifice. It takes guidance. It takes commitment and dedication, perseverance, right? Well, sobriety is the same way. I can't kind of half-ass it and think I'm kind of going to try it out and see how it goes, and then be mad when I can't get it right. It's like you have to make a commitment and have a plan in place and know when your tough times are going to be. And you got to put healthy things in those times to help you get through it. And you have to be in a mindset that I'm not drinking no matter what. That decision is made. Now I got to figure out what the hell I'm going to do to fill my time.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's very well said.
yeah.
It sounds so easy, and it like if you take it action by action. When I say to people, I'm like, just don't drink, and they're like, but that's so hard, and I'm like, it's the easiest and it's the hardest, but just don't drink. Like don't do it, and you won't. And it's like that's very easy to say, but it is a physical choice that we make.
For sure. Especially when you've had alcohol out of your system for a little while and you are thinking clearly and whatever, you are making a choice. I did a whole episode about, is relapse a choice? And listen, I get that there is a certain time that we are not in control of our decisions, no question. But let me tell you something. When I've had a period of sobriety, I don't care if that's 2 days, 12 hours, I don't care what it is. When I have had a period of sobriety, I have already proven I cannot drink. From that point, if I end up with alcohol in my body, it is a series of choices that I made to get there, right? I had to think about it and argue with myself about it and make the decision that I am going to drink. Then I have to also make the decision to not reach out to anybody or go to a meeting or do anything to interrupt it, right? Then I have to decide where I'm going to go, how am I going to do it, where am I going to get it, what time am I going to do it? I've got to create the situation and the privacy or whatever. All of those are choices. And you're still choosing to not reach out to anybody, to not go to a meeting, to not do anything to stop yourself, right? Then you've got to go get it. You got to get it in your hot little hand. You have to choose what you're drinking. You have to purchase it. You have to open it. And then you've got to pour it down your throat. Right. All of those are choices. And at any part of that process, you could make 10 other choices to keep you from drinking.
The choices thing is hard because it's like that. I apply that in other areas of my life. I was having a conversation with a friend who was like, having a rough time in her life. And I just said, yeah, but these are all decisions that we make. Like we live in these imaginary boxes that like society tells us to live in, but we like choose to like do the things that we do. Like no one's holding a gun to our head, and making us do that, like outside of like abiding by laws and things, right? I'm like, if you chose to tomorrow, you could list everything if you wanted to leave your apartment tomorrow, you could choose to list everything on Facebook Marketplace and put the contents of your bank account into your gas tank and physically drive away. And I'm like, I know that that's not like the most exciting choice, but it's like, I have to remind myself of that as well when I'm spiraling and I'm in a place where I feel like I have no control. It's like I have way more choices. I have all the choices, actually. They're just hard.
Yeah. But they're not even necessarily that hard, honestly. I think the first couple of seconds are kind of hard.
Sure.
You know, like reaching out to
Sure.
somebody feels hard.
Yes.
But it's really not. It's that we blow it out of proportion in our head and we make it feel like this big dramatic thing. Like I tell my clients, I'm like, dude, all you have to do is send a text going, hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
That's all you have to do. Like you don't have to text somebody and go, oh my God, my life is falling apart. I'm having a moment. I'm in a meltdown. I can't help me. You don't have to do that. Just reach out to somebody and go, hi, how's your day?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's reaching out. So we just make it this big, huge thing that it really isn't. And the difference in those situations, number one, alcohol, listen, we are not victims here. Alcohol is not chasing you down the sidewalk, pouring itself down your throat. It's not.
No.
It just doesn't do that. You know, you couldn't convince me that for a long time, but we are making choices. And the difference is when you are committed to not drinking, you will do the things that feel difficult in that moment. When you are committed to drinking, you're definitely not going to reach out because you want to protect your option to drink. You don't want to let anybody know it's on your mind. So you got to figure out where your commitment is. And that's the hardest
I think
part.
that's also where it falls into like the relapse slip gray area as well, is like ultimately I can't make those definitions for you. Like I can only make them for myself and then hold myself to that certain integrity. Like I don't care what that looks like in your life, but I know in my life, here's the bounds of what is okay and not okay for me. Because people like to use the language to, you know, bend the rules for themselves. And I'm like, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Call yourself sober, call yourself an alcoholic, call yourself sober curious. I don't care as long as it's working for you.
Right.
But like for me, that might not, like a slip, it equals a relapse. Like to me, my definitions of things are different for myself. And I don't care what your, you know, definitions are for you as long as it's not harmful.
I don't have any desire to judge anybody else's thing, you know, because we all get to our journey in our own way, you know, like it is different. My learning lessons were different than what yours are going to be or what somebody else is going to be. I don't care. I cannot express enough how little I care about all these words. And it's such a distraction. You know, like people put so much energy into these words and these labels. I'm like, dude, I don't care what you call me. I can't fucking drink.
Right. Yeah. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I
don't do it well. It does not agree with me. It did try to kill me. There's always that, you know, like I just can't drink. I don't care what you want to call it. I don't care what,
and I don't care what you do.
Part of.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, listen, do you, I will never turn my back on you. I will always be there to help as much as I can, but I'm not getting caught up in the labels and the words. It's the least important part of the whole thing. You know, like I don't see anybody getting up in arms about, well, I don't want to be called allergic or shellfish. You know what I mean? Like, are you gray area shellfish?
Right.
I mean, like it's so dumb, you know?
It's so good.
I mean, whatever everybody wants to do, fantastic. But I just don't care about the words and the labels, you know? And people,
why does alcoholic equal gluten-free? Like all of a sudden you're just no fun because you can't eat bread anymore.
People get really hung up on the term alcoholic, and it's interesting because it's like people really get hung up, and that's why a lot of people won't seek help because they're just so afraid of. No one wants to be an alcoholic, but
I think it's for the same reasons that we cling to certain things in culture, like why people have a lot of trouble with people who have fluid identities and like sexualities. It's like it's uncomfortable because it's undefined. And so therefore people, you know, need to assert themselves to put things in certain boxes for themselves, which is
people love labeling
important, but also, you know what I mean? Such a self-guided
I just
thing.
think it's such a distraction of energy, right? When what I need to be focused on is being a better human being. I need to be focused on filling my time with healthy things and spending my energy on things that are going to make me a better human so I don't have a life that I feel like I want to run away from in the bottom of a bottle. That's where your energy needs to be. Nobody cares about the words and the labels. Like, go be a good person. That's where my energy needs to be.
All right. Well, at this point in the interview, we usually ask a series of lightning questions, but because you are an adult sober person and you're in adult sobriety, I'm selfishly asking for Jess and I, what does your sobriety look like now? Like, what do we have to look forward to? I have 5 years. Jess has almost 3. Like, let us in on the goods down the road. What roadblocks have you hit, and what sort of rewards have you hit that maybe you weren't expecting?
Well, I mean, roadblocks really have nothing to do with sobriety. It's just life stuff. I've definitely had plenty of them, certainly as an entrepreneur. There's never a shortage of roadblocks and obstacles. But I think it becomes this really comfortable, easy, like no drama, no chaos. Like my life is so freaking good. On my worst day, I can't figure out something to complain about.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't mean that I don't have days that I feel like shit. I do. I definitely do. I was just talking to somebody earlier, like the last couple of weeks, I've really been struggling with motivation. Like I just haven't felt great. Like I'm not depressed. I don't have anything in particular to not feel great about. I just don't feel great. I've been really tired. I mean, I'm old, so I'm sure that's part of it. But you're always going to have those moments, right? And it doesn't really have anything to do with recovery. But I will say, there's something we talk about in 12 steps about living transparent, like having a transparent life. And I have such an incredible appreciation for that because I am an honest person. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to cover. I don't have lies I have to keep straight with different people. I don't do anything in my life that I wouldn't want to tell someone. My sponsor said to me early on, like, well, if you're thinking you wouldn't want to tell me that, or you wouldn't want your mom to find out you did that, then you've got no business doing it. And I thought that was beautiful. It was a really great way to grade my behavior, because where I don't have a desire to drink and haven't since I got sober, I will always have the desire to act out. And I will always have compulsions, right? Like I am a compulsive human. So I kind of have to fight that in a lot of different areas of my life. But I think you hit a place in your recovery, if you're really working it, not half-assing it, you get so much power and control in your life when you really get into recovery and you really get focused on just healing yourself and understanding your choices and making good choices instead of crappy choices. You get this unbelievable amount of power and control in your life where you really get to create it to be whatever you want. Now, you don't get that if you're half-assing it. I didn't get it when I was half-assing it. You have to be engaged and involved. But when I realized that I had so much control over the person I could become and the kind of life I could build for myself, that's when personal development became kind of its own addiction. And I love that. Like I never would have had that when I was drunk and all over the place and hungover and functioning at 30% every day because I was hungover.
You can't depend on yourself. There's like
Not at
you just
all.
never know what's going to happen. And I feel like in sobriety, like I know I'm not going to be hungover tomorrow. So I know that if I have anxiety, it's not because I'm hungover, because I'm dehydrated, because I'm tired, because I'm emotional. It's like I might have anxiety because I'm worried about the day, but that's much more manageable than like, like you said, showing up with 30%.
Right. Well, in having your biology and physiology all over the board because you're destroying your insides with booze and drugs, So yeah, it's just a different thing. But if anybody would have ever told me how easy it is to live as a sober person, I never would have believed them.
That's true.
It was so much harder for me to be drunk and maintain that life and maintain all of those negative emotions and hating myself and wanting to die every day. That was way harder than the occasional, over shopping spree I might have.
That's very true. I think we need to do part 2 to this, Jess, and have her back. Like there's just so much wisdom to like shake out of.
Well, okay. We'll do that.
Yes.
But I feel like in the meantime, can you tell our listeners like where to find you, where like all of the things, so that because that they're all going to be like wanting to scramble to find you until part 2. So
all of the things. So I'm on all the social medias at Addiction Unlimited. Addiction Unlimited is the podcast. It has its own website, addictionunlimited.com. We have a Facebook group. I have a free Facebook group that's Addiction Unlimited. And then, our member community and things like that, you can easily find from there. But pretty much everything at Addiction Unlimited.
That's
my
easy enough.
my like whole favorite thing about you is like you have the most chill constitution and like a steady confidence, which I think is like, for me, at least when I think about sobriety, that is the goal. Like it's a balance, and you know that you have joy in your life, but you're also prepared and capable of handling anything. And I feel like that's why, to me, your goals, because I think in early sobriety, it's still so like all over the place.
White
Like you
knuckling
still
it.
don't know so much about yourself, and you're still like managing all these things. And I think as time goes on, like I trust myself more. I know myself more. And I feel like you're an expansion on that. And so your goals, Angela,
Awesome.
through and
Thank
through.
you.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on
for spending
today.
time with us.
Absolutely.
We might have to reach out to you and be
We
like,
need
come
a part
back
2.
if you're cool.
Or like a
if you're
club,
down with
what
that.
did you say? Clubhouse, Zoom, a Facebook hangout? I don't know. We'll figure it out. She's all over.
Yes. I would love to do a part 2. We should do a part 2 and talk about exactly what you were kind of just talking about, of the not knowing yourself, because I do feel like sometimes people, when they listen to those of us that have been sober a long time, it's like they think I've been this way from day one,
Mhm.
but it
Right.
was not that way at all. Like this was a journey, and who I am today, honestly, has been a result of my last 5 or 6 years. So I had a whole decade before that in recovery that I was learning and figuring those things out. But there is so much reward in it when you stay committed to it, and you do learn to love yourself again, and you do start to figure out who you really are.
Mhm.
And then how you are in the world is a whole new ball game. It's
Mhm.
super cool.
Yeah.
If we were like this straight out the gate, like people wouldn't relapse. Like
Right.
everyone would be
Totally.
sober.
Yes.
It takes time and work. So
Yeah. The only thing I did right from day one was not drink.
That is
that's
true.
step 1.
That is step 1. All right.
Oh,
We will
Angela,
talk to you
thank
soon.
you so much.
Thank you so much for
Bye,
coming
Have a good
on.
one.
Thank
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Squad. She's amazing. Do you want to take it away, Jess, and we'll do our outro?
Oh yeah, until we meet again.
Be nice to yourself.
And don't forget,
Hangovers suck.
suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.